Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. This is a series that consists of spewing out assorted thoughts which arose from somebody who thinks too much, taking in, and generally loving entertainment media by the boatload. These tidbits may be mini theories, observations, or simply jokes. Hopefully people will find them entertaining or at least interesting. And who knows, maybe they'll inspire others to look at what amuses them in different ways than before. Also bear in mind that everything blabbed about in these videos are from the perspective of somebody who's experienced every main story bit connected with whatever works currently being gone over. So spoilers are a definite. However, other works set in a shared continuity will typically solely be referenced in a way that only makes sense to anybody who's also fully experienced those ones up until their same time occurring points. Sort of a coded nod kind of deal. So, while things will be more fun for viewers who've indulged with an entire universe's works, nobody who has yet to do so will get non-experienced events spoiled. Now, with all of that out of the way, here we go. Pilot. Thawne's theatrical and apparently impossible to prove murder of Nora grants this timeline's iteration of the Flash-Reverse Flash rivalry an aspect it typically doesn't have. That is, the obsession exists on both sides, not just Thawne's, as demonstrated by basically every moment of Barry's superhero career in this series. It's established early on that Barry doesn't own a car, and there's no mention of him ever really possessing one throughout his entire adult life. This may have actually came about via Thawne's stemming life manipulations, as the guy would probably have at least a few reasons to keep Barry transportation impaired. 1. If Barry had to walk/run everywhere, his body would obviously be pretty well prepared for gaining speedster powers. 2. Preventing Barry from easily leaving Central City for extended periods of time, or even permanently as an adult, would definitely make setting up the circumstances to create the Flash much simpler a task. 3. If Barry always ran and or walked everywhere, even a Speed Force intervention-free traumatic incident could have forced his metagene to mutate him some kind of way that results in going really fast, not being problematic. Sure, being a speedster would allow for the easiest future return method, but Barry possessing abilities like Superman or something probably still could have helped Thawne get back home eventually, although a more heavy-duty time machine would have likely been involved instead of just one little time sphere. 4. Last, and most definitely least, keeping an eye on Barry would certainly be much easier if things like identical model cars showing up in high traffic situations were taken out of the equation. Everything Thawne says during his speech before turning on the particle accelerator does come true in some way later on, at least with regards to the Speed Force now being in play, beyond simply load-bearing reality or whatever, will change our understanding of physics. When speedsters use their powers, basically all of the normal laws of physics change and or get ignored, like how they don't make everyone saved by them go splat while performing rescues. Bring about advancements in power. As shown underneath Thawne's chair late in the season, Speed Force batteries exist in this universe. Also, Firestorm is definitely an advancement in the nuclear energy department. Advancements in medicine. At the very least, new medical procedures will have to be developed because normal treatment methods often don't work on speedsters as a result of their accelerated healing. And trust me, the future will be here faster than you think. His closing comment basically cements that he's talking about the Speed Force's influence on the world. Thawne looks over at that man who robbed Iris while giving his pre-accelerator activation speech, and in response, the guy nods. It's likely this crime was set up in order to ensure that Barry wound up in his lab to get struck by the Speed Force lightning, because manipulating him emotionally by endangering a loved one is much easier than arranging some kind of weirdly complex forensic crisis that forces an all-nighter for Mr. Always Late crime scene investigator. The original Flash first showed up in 2020 timeline likely involved a crime that coincidentally thrust Barry into his lab at the right time though. Granted, Barry likely would have gotten struck by lightning somewhere else and subsequently still became a speedster. Him being at the lab and getting chemicals soaked was probably just necessary for Thawne's plan, because otherwise the guy might have had a different power balance than what's typical of the Flash, like not healing quickly enough or something. The dish dropping at jitters triggers Barry's first use of super speed, because not only is broken glass potentially dangerous, it also reminds him of his mother's murder, as Nora dropped her drink when Thawne busted in. Every time Barry trains/tests in Season 1, Thawne is not only monitoring the guy's progress, but also checking on how much of his own speed has returned by observing how easily he follows along with all that faster than normal perception hoopla. There's a good chance that Cisco didn't work for Star Labs in the original Scarlet Speedster doesn't run about until 2020 timeline, but was still responsible for creating the Flash suit in a way. After all, the guy's pretty altruistic by nature, so it's likely he made a new outfit for firefighters that actually got put to its intended use before Thawne messed everything up. Pre-dead mom Barry likely got a hold of some anti-friction garb that he subsequently altered to be brighter so everybody would recognize the Flash when seeing him, even if he was really far away. In the timeline everybody at home gets shown, Thawne probably goaded Cisco into making such outfits because it's a scientific achievement vital to history, and Barry making something completely solo instead of altering what already exists could be intended future ruining. The lightning chose Barry. In the very first Barry Allen as the Flash timeline, him getting powers probably was a freak accident. He receives them again in subsequent history iterations because Speed Force Hoopla handles itself better when all magical science energy recipients are identical across reality versions. Thawne would obviously know that the phrase, "Run, Barry, run," would produce a powerful emotional response from Barry because he witnessed Henry saying it while his child but not kid Flash assassination attempt was going on. He also probably realized that its similarity to the movie quote, "Run, Forrest, run," would make a Cisco parroting quite likely, and that things would only snowball from there. Each successive use of this phrase probably hurt Barry a little, even when it motivated him, because of the original event's traumatic impact. Thawne most likely wanted this recurring phrase implementation to happen, because constantly hurting the Flash is his favorite hobby. Fastest man alive. Barry probably isn't aware of his accelerated metabolism until someone else informs him of it because he's too distracted and depressed from seeing Iris with Eddie. That bit of course stacks with the sting he gets from realizing his father's name can be cleared but not knowing how to go about doing so yet. Such factors piling onto normal stress things, like work responsibilities, would make it rather easy for a lack of dining excitement to overshadow actual hunger increases. Thawne most likely truly believes his statement of doubt is the real enemy with regards to Barry, but not because genuine Flash-aimed concern exists within him. Rather, what Thawne's really worried about is the fact that only a Flash who truly possesses self-confidence will be capable of performing the speed feats necessary for his time travel-filled plan's completion. Thawne is likely able to safely kill Stag without having to worry about timeline changes because the man mostly stole work from other people, so any contributions he made to the world's history would likely still occur after his demise, except with their true creator/inventors' names attached. If Metamorpho exists in this universe, then Stag's role as an antagonist to the guy could be taken over by someone else in his company, as it's probable he wasn't performing corporate corruption completely solo. There's also a chance that poor old Metamorpho simply isn't important enough in the grand scheme of things to alter any Barry Allen related events. Thus, Thawne simply doesn't care about his timeline. Things you can't outrun. While Barry was obviously right about the crime family members experiencing gas-induced bucket kicking at different times and all that being because of a meta, which everybody watching knew to be true even before he started investigating, an alternative involving traditional pump action could still occur with similar results. The only thing really necessary for everyone dying away from each other is for them to have started fighting before any air-based lethal treats got in. Cisco may have developed the first superpower dampening tech in the 2020 Flash debut Outrun timeline Thawne's trying to imitate, hence why Mr. Stab Happy eggs somebody else into coming up with locking metas in a particle pipeline-placed prison instead of immediately initiating its creation himself. All that cooperative, morally questionable plan generation also comes with the added bonus of making Wells seem slightly less shady in Detective Joe West's eyes for a while by painting a self-portrait which intends to scream, "This man is reluctant to crime." Cisco being so focused on time and what was happening to everybody else during the accelerator's failure could have easily been what made his metagene cause a mutation that gave him a power set which includes precognition. If there wasn't any type of sedative mixed in with Nimbus's metagas, it's likely people other than the Flash could escape him under optimal conditions, as their coughing would be a lot more effective without physiological process dampening going on. The pipeline cells don't actually prevent powers from being used at first, them merely being almost impossible to penetrate seems like all they have as a selling point. It's likely Thawne didn't egg Cisco on too much during their development, so the latter couldn't sell the tech to outside authorities like CCPD upon discovering how meta-dampening works. After all, if Thawne didn't have the excuse of it's too dangerous for the super criminals to be held anywhere near normal people, every Flash defeated villain could be imprisoned somewhere he didn't completely control. A scenario like that, where the Flash's villains aren't all regularly within Thawne's reach, means optimizing the guy's progress via power usage experience controlling would be extremely difficult even for somebody who knows how history should play out, as meticulously planned speed honing rematches become much harder to arrange under such conditions. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya!